Welcome to Empowerment of Faith Kingdom Center for Ambassadors, pastored by Dr. Larry Smith. Our vision is to preach the gospel of the kingdom of heaven and bring all nations to the knowledge of truth. We hope this word empowers you today and helps you discover Elohim's purpose for your life. Now, let's get into the teaching.
Well, shalom and welcome back to Empowerment of Faith Kingdom Center for Ambassadors. I am Elder Tori and I am delighted to be on this platform this evening to be able to minister the word. We have been getting such a rich, powerful word from our senior pastor, Dr. Larry. And before we get started, I want to make sure that I take a moment to thank my senior pastor for allowing me to be up here this evening to minister the word. Is definitely never taken lightly or overlooked or just like, oh, it's no big deal. It is a big deal. And I do appreciate Dr. Larry for allowing me to be here this evening. And we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to pray. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for your word that's going forth on this evening, Father. I just covenant with you on tonight that I don't fall short or go beyond the ability that you supply, Father, and that the word can go, that there are no distractions, and we agree in the authority of Yeshua, we believe that we receive. So this evening, we are going to continue in the area of dealing with consecration and dedication. And if you guys have been tuning in with us, Dr. Larry has been breaking down, beating it up, tearing it up, flipping it over, which way, that way, back and forth, as he's been dealing with consecration and dedication. And it's been such a rich and powerful word. And being on the receptive end of that, if you aren't changing and shifting and making adjustments as this word is going forth, you are just not willing or just not listening, because it's been such a powerful word that's coming forth. And so I'm actually going to continue right in that same vein. I'm not going to deviate from what he's already been teaching us. So we're going to go ahead and start. If you go to that first slide, we can, I want to do just a touch of review, and I want to take a minute to look at this word precept. Now, this is just going to be a quick review because a couple weeks ago, Dr. Leary actually dug deep into this word. But when we look at the word precept, it means direction, regulation, principles, instructing to do a certain action, which is to be obeyed by all in same society of the covenant and commands. And so what I specifically want to point out right here is that precepts have principles, and principles don't change. So you can apply a principle 15 years ago, you can apply it today, tomorrow, and 15 years later, and those principles are still going to work. And so when we look at precept, I want to take a minute just to look at it in the Hebrew. We have pei, kuf, vav, dalet. Turn this off. Pei, kuf, vav, dalet, yud, and mem. And when we look at that pei, we see right there, it is the infinite power of the spoken word of the Father. Now, when we go back to the Hebrew and we just take a minute to think about that, when the Father speaks, he put all of who he is in his word. So he doesn't just waste the words like man does. He doesn't just say things. So when he's speaking, he's putting all of his power in his word. And so when he's speaking, it's time for us to listen. Then you have that kuf, what follows the intent of the established word. See, right here, when we continue to look at this word, we have that pei, which is that infinite spoken word, but his intent is going to follow the word that he's already spoken. And it's important that we understand that, especially when it comes to precepts, because that's our instructions. We already are empowered because he already spoke this. Now I have to apply the word because I know that his intent is following what he's already spoken. And not only has he spoken it, and there is an intent that established that's going to follow that established word, but the word he's already established. You see that vav, it means to be established or connected. And that is vitally important, as Elder Caleb would say. That's very important that we get that, because we live in a society where the moral compass is shifting left and right. At one moment, it's okay to own slaves, and I'm going far back. And then the next moment, you have people saying that it's okay for a man and a man to marry each other. But the word Elohim, he doesn't change. change. You see right here, it says, I'm Yahweh and I do not change. So if he doesn't change, so neither does his word. And if his word doesn't change, that means his precepts aren't changing. So those same precepts, we can continue to apply them over and over, but we got to make sure that we're getting his precept and not our own. Okay. And so then you have the dalet. So the word's been spoken, the intent is going to follow it. You got this vav, it's been established, but now we have this dalet, which is access to the culture, the authority, government, and the teaching of the kingdom. So we got access to all of who the Father is, and it all started when he spoke. So we have access to his authority, we have access to his government, but part of that is making sure we get that precept in us. And then you got that yud and that mem, which is the yud is the power and ability, and the mem is the life-giving spirit. So again, remember we said at the very beginning that pay is that it's the infinite power of his spoken word. And see, we have this yud right here, that's his ability. So there's nothing infinite about the Father. He's not limited to anybody but himself, but we got to go back and make sure we get those precepts. And I'm bringing that up because as we deal with consecration on this evening, you can't even consecrate correctly if you don't have the right precepts. Right. So, and before we move on right here, one thing I do want to point out and just remind you guys, because we've been taught this, that precepts are original. It's his original truth. Everybody got a truth. Your mama got a truth. Your daddy got a truth. The dog, the cat, everybody has a truth. But the only truth that matters is the original truth. So you can go to that next slide and we just going to continue in this review. But as we deal with consecration, we have been taught very thoroughly that it has a twofold meaning. So when we consecrate, for one, we're going to empty ourselves in order to be full. And so when we go through that emptying, see, it's important, again, you got to know the precept when it comes to consecration, because if you empty yourself, well, let me stop. You got to go before the Father to even know exactly what to empty. Because many times we can pick and choose, well, I need to work on this area. And don't get me wrong, if you got an area that you know you need to work on, go ahead and work on it. But we can't tell the Father what we're going to empty if we're committed to him. See, that's the thing about consecration. Consecration, once you go before the Father and actually commit to going on the consecration, he's going to show you those areas that you need to empty. And in that process, as you go through the process of emptying and positioning yourself to be full, he's going to fill you with what? His precepts. Exactly. So see why we got to get those precepts. I'll never forget when Dr. Larry said one day, he said, it's more important to know precepts than the word. And I was like, where is he going with this? But I have learned with time to listen and you'll know exactly where he's going with it. So we got to make sure as we deal with consecration. So just in case anybody, this is their first time tuning in with us, we see there's two words for consecrate. You got Malay and you got the yud. So Malay, that is to be filled. So it's spelled mem, lamed, aleph, and then you have the yud, which is yud, vav, and the dalet. And so when we consecrate, it's to be filled with the power and authority and anointing of the Father to govern me. When I consecrate, I will always put the Father's will first. When I consecrate, I'm always going to empty myself so that I can be filled with his word, not with what I want to be filled with. See, I was and even as I was thinking about this, if you could go down to note 5, I want to deal with that next. I was thinking about this, I was reminded of when I was in high school. I was talking to I was around kids that were Catholic as well as Methodist, and they were talking about Lent. And I was like, what's Lent? I've never heard of that. And so they were telling me that they would give up something for Lent. And in that, even as I was thinking about it, I was like, well, that sounds like a kind of like they tried to do a form of consecration or whatever. But I was talking to this one specifically girl. She told me she was giving up Kool-Aid. And I was like, okay, like, it's not a big deal or whatever. But the thing about it, as she was going through this process, and there was many other kids that was going through the process too, a lot of them didn't make it. They didn't make it, or they just were like, oh, well, I can't wait till my 40 days is over with so I can drink my Kool-Aid. Well, the thing is, that's not a real consecration. You didn't even deal with the habit. You weren't in position to empty yourself. You didn't try to empty yourself. You were going to empty and then refill that cup up with that same exact thing at the end of your 40 days. And you can't see, that was a stubborn will that was set in place that wasn't even trying to change when the Father, when the, let me stop, because first that was religion. Let me just address that. That was I guess a religious concept or a religious practice, I should say. And so it didn't work. It didn't work. And you have so many people, and that's why we got to really make sure that we truly empty, because so many people are empty, or well, let me rephrase that. So many people are emptying, yet, well, not that, actually they're not even emptying, because they're not even going on the real consecration, now that I think about it. But we have to make sure that we're actually emptying what the Father wants us to empty, because when he wants to empty us, he wants to fill us with something so that he can take us in a different direction. It's not about what we want to empty or what we think we should empty. The goal should always be reflective of the Father, because when we go on the real consecration, see, the thing is, the Father should look at us and be able to see himself. And part of getting to that point is consecrating and uprooting and emptying ourselves of those things that are unlike him. So if we look at note 5, when you go on the consecration, it's going to require some work. It's not going to be, oh, okay, I'm just, like this girl said, I'm just going to give up Kool-Aid, not thinking twice about it, not doing anything, just going through the motion. And so we know that when we are on the consecration, it's going to require at least prayer. You're going to have to spend some time in prayer and being before the Father and asking him, okay, what areas do you want to deal with? What areas do you want me to uproot so that I can be filled with your precepts, not my own? So when we go before the Father, when we go on the consecration, we got to pray. And so Yeshua himself, he prayed the prayer of consecration. And I'm just going to mention this because, again, this is still review. It said he withdrew about a stone's throw beyond them, knelt down and prayed, Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me, yet not my will, but yours be done. And so how we've been taught how it should read is that, Father, sovereign ruler, I must be separated from you to fulfill your will in order to take the punishment of mankind so that they can receive eternal life. So if Yeshua prayed the prayer of consecration, why you not doing it? And I don't mean to be mean or anything, but we can't just go through the motions and think that we're going to get the results and that feeling that the Father wants to fill us with. See, right here, Yeshua, he was more focused on the Father's will than what he wanted to do. I mean, you want to get brutalized like he did? Like, think about it. And even when I go back and I'm just studying and I'm thinking about, man, Father, Yeshua, how much did you do for me? How much did you do for me? The humiliation and the beating and the torment that he went through. But he did it 100% to the Father because he had given his will up. See, we got to get the right precept about consecration and about my will. It ain't about what you want. We have to shift and you got to even be willing to give up the will. But when you go through the process of consecration and you'll see that emptying, you'll see those things that you need to change so that we can ultimately be broken, which is what we're going to deal with. But also consecration, it's going to take some time. You got to be patient. See, the word tells us patience must complete its course so that you can be complete and whole and lacking nothing. The consecration and the emptying is not for Elohim, it's for you so that he can take you where he wants you to go. The consecration is going to benefit you in the long run. So you got to give it time to work, because I think about, and I think I've shared this before, once upon a time in my life, I had a real coffee addiction. And my husband told me several times I was addicted to coffee. I was like, you don't know what you're talking about. No, I'm not. I can, whatever. But I looked at the bank statements, and the bank statement said, Tori, you had a problem. But as and don't get me wrong, what I had to do in that area, I had to go on a special consecration because my flesh was just out of control. So I had to get that under control, but it's still, I still had to pray. And I got to the point, I was like, this is ridiculous. And when I look back, it was a small fox in my life because I didn't deal with it. It escalated into something that I was full on addicted to. And I just thought it was normal. I'm defending my addiction like, well, I can stop anytime I want. Sounds like an addiction. So when we go into consecration, it rids the messiness and it purges the soul. See, we can't overlook stuff that the Father is wanting to deal with us on. So we got to make sure that we actually go through that entire process of being empty so we can be full. If you could go to note 4, I'm sorry, I'm kind of jumping around. So we know that dedication follows consecration. So if we look at this, we see the Hebrew word kadosh, and it's also so when we look at it, it's what follows the threshing, and we're going to talk about the threshing floor as well. But this is it's another word for holiness, and so we can't dedicate ourselves if it's not holy. It can't be dedicated. So if you hadn't, what you gonna dedicate if you ain't even emptied nothing? You can't just decide that something is going to be holy. You got to go before the Father and see what He deems as holy so that you can be dedicated. So if you go down to, can you go down to note 6 for me? So right here we have an example of dedication. Yeshua, he lived a dedicated life. He lived a lifestyle of consecration. He was constantly emptying himself, submitting his will. So when it came to do something, he was already dedicated. See, I don't know if you, I'm sorry, I don't know if you guys remember, a long time ago, one thing I heard Dr. Leary say is that you can program yourself to do well, do good. You can program yourself to do right. And I was like, again, trying to figure out what he was talking about instead of just stopping and listening. And so as he got into this teaching, I was like, oh, okay, I get that. Because when you have emptied yourself so much, you automatically see, let me rephrase that. Whatever is in you, that's what you're going to be dedicated to. So when we empty and we position ourselves for the Father to fill, it's easy to dedicate ourselves to the Father. So let's take a look at this. Yeshua lived a consecrated life. And this is just an example. It says, for I have come down from heaven not to do my will, but to do the will of him who sent me. He was always focused on doing the will of the Father and being before the Father. See, he was full of purpose. He wasn't focused on what he wanted. He wasn't focused on how he felt. And we live in this society now, people are so focused on their feelings that you can't even do nothing. You can't function. And I won't say the Father don't care about your feelings, but people are so wrapped up in feelings that they don't even know that they're not operating in the will of the Father. And so we got to make sure, again, something going on consecration, it'll show us those things that we got to shift. And another example, even as a child, he was about his Father's business. So right here it reads, he said to them, why did you seek me? Did you not know that I was about my Father's business? See, even children can consecrate themselves. Even children can be before the Father, and the Father can deal with them. So let's not underestimate what those children can do. So if you could go on to the next note for me, I think that's note 7. So are you willing to break? Now we know that the breaking is so important. See, we can go through the process of consecration and the Father can show us these things and we can empty, but also you got to be willing to break away from some things. And so even as I was thinking about this, light was shone in my own home. Did I say that right? The light was shined in my own house. And I was thinking about one of my children. It was something that I had been telling them, like, y'all need to do this. And it was my oldest. I was telling her, I was like, I'm going to help you this time, but next time, this is your responsibility. Next time you do it, I'm going to beat you. I will. Let me rephrase it. I'm going to whoop you because I don't need CPS following after me. But I was like, I'm going to whoop you. You're going to get in trouble because you're not listening to what I'm telling you to do. So sure enough, it came around. She decided not to listen again. And I was like, okay, now I got to get you. Because in my mind, I was kind of mad because I was like, we already running late. Now I got to stop and whoop you. But anyways, I was like, I got to get you because I already said that I was going to do it. So I did it. And I went to, I need to go get something. So I came back upstairs and she said, Mommy, I'm sorry that I didn't do this. And I was like, I understand, but I'm still whooping you. And I'm grateful that I did it that way because there was something else that she'd done. And I was like, I got to get you again. Like, you're not tired of getting whoopings. But what I realized is that she had to go through a breaking. And even as I noticed, it's almost like it just started to trickle through the whole house. Everybody just started listening. And I'm not trying to be funny, but everybody started listening. But I also noticed a shift in everybody's attitude. Like when I would ask her to do something, okay, mommy. When I needed something done, okay, mommy. But what I realized in that moment when she said that, I was like, okay, that's how we should be to the Father. I had to break her because she, for one, she don't even realize what I'm trying to teach her. She doesn't realize I'm trying to teach her about management. I'm trying to teach her about order. I'm trying to teach her about taking care of your things. I'm trying to teach her how to position herself so that she can receive increase later. And she also don't even realize that I'm trying to teach you to listen the first time, not just for me, but when you are listening to Elohim, you got to have your own relationship and you got to listen to him for yourself. So she doesn't even see the big picture. I just knew in that moment her will needed to be broken, which is the same thing. We got to break our will. And as I was thinking about that, the whooping wasn't comfortable. It hurt. She cried and cried and she didn't like any of it. She didn't like the whooping again, but look what it did for her. And so now we got to position ourselves when the father comes in and he's wanting to deal with us, we got to go through the process of breaking. And it's not easy. It's not comfortable. Go ahead and let those tears fall. I was telling somebody, I don't know. I was talking to somebody and I was like, the word that we've been getting, I got so many words, but I don't have many words at all. Because I'm wanting to Father to break up all those areas. And some of those areas he was breaking, I was like, I thought I was past that. And I wouldn't. I had to change. And there were areas that, well, let me phrase that. Let me go back to this. Okay. So breaking is not easy. Breaking is uncomfortable. So right here, circumcise therefore the foreskin of your heart. You hear that? See, we got to deal with the will and allow it to be broken up, because many things, and I got to thank my dad for this. He tell me all the time, I'm 50, I've been doing this for 25 years. And he talks about how some things have been hard to change. But when it comes to that will, some of those things that we've been putting in our system for years and years and years, don't expect it to come out overnight. You got to shift. But also in that, you got to be willing to submit your will. You got to be willing to shed that skin on your heart and allow the Father to come in and deal with those areas. So go ahead and go through get your whooping and be happy. Get your whooping and move on, because it's for your benefit. It's not everything. And see, the thing is, when it comes to breaking that will, that flesh don't want to deal with it. See, the flesh always wants to do the stuff that feels good. The flesh always wants to do the stuff that's not so bad. It seeks that pleasure. But you got to tell that flesh, look, I'm in control and we're going to go through this breaking process. We got to focus on the long run. And see, that's one thing that even as I've been dealing with my own children, as I mentioned, she didn't realize, she couldn't see what I was doing. We can't always see what the Father is doing when he's breaking us, because he's doing it because he wants to take us somewhere else. He's not trying to leave us where we're at, but if your will can leave you exactly where you at. So go ahead and make the choice to switch, to break, to allow that will to be broken. So what are some of the things we need to be broken from? One is trauma and hurt. People, and y'all may get mad at me. Well, y'all not going to get mad at me, but somebody may get mad at me. People love their trauma. People do not want to get rid of their trauma. And I'm not saying that people like traumatic events and things happening to them, but when things happen, people don't want to let it go. And especially when it comes to, like, I know, especially when trauma happened in childhood, you know, people, and I understand that when trauma happens in childhood, it does shape the brain, and we know that's survival brain, but the world likes to call it ACEs and all that. But anyways, I understand that trauma can affect you physically. I get all of that. But at a certain point, you got to choose to break your will and allow the Father to come in and heal those areas. And how do I know? You looking at somebody who didn't did all of that. So we can't sit here because people like to coddle that trauma. Oh, well, you don't know what happened to me, or well, this happened when I was 5. So, like, at a certain point, You got to make decision to allow the Father to deal with those areas and heal, because you can, people love to say, well, I'm like this because this happened. No, you like that because you chose to stay and continue to allow that behavior to come in. Because and one thing that I hate to hear that people do is trauma bonding. And if you don't know what it is, basically, I got a problem, you got a problem, we sit in the room, we talk together, now we happy that we didn't all had trauma. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with talking about your trauma, but if you are not talking about trauma in a way that you are gleaning from somebody who's been through it and is working towards your healing, you are choosing to stay exactly where you at. The word says Elohim is close to the brokenhearted. He can deal with that trauma. He's not scared of that trauma, but you got to let it go. You got to stop choosing that and will to, oh, okay, Father, deal with me in this area, Father. Heal me in this area. And I'm not telling y'all something that I don't know. This is something that I've been through. I know the Father can heal trauma, and it's not easy. It's not easy. Sometimes it would seem like the healing process hurt more than the trauma. But are you willing to let that trauma go and break from it so the Father can take you somewhere else? All right. Another thing that we got to break from is relationships. Oh my goodness. People love their relationships. And don't get me wrong, relationships have a place. I'm not saying neglect relationships. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have relationships. We should, because we're not meant to be isolated. But, hear me well, but if it gets to the point to where that relationship is interfering with you doing what you know is right, it's time for you to take a look at their relationship. So let's look at the word. It says, if anyone comes, I can't see that. If anyone comes to me and does not hate their father, mother, wife, children, brother, and sisters, yet even their own life, such person cannot be my disciple or my scholar. And we're going to read another one, then we'll deal with it. Anyone who loves their father, mother more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves their son or their daughter more than me is not worthy of me. So don't get mad at me, because this is what the word told you, that if you allow those relationships to be precedent over being in submission and in alignment and in the will of the Father, you're not even worthy. And so we got to make sure that we're not allowing these relationships to determine my obedience and my submission. And an example of that would be, around here we've gotten thorough teaching about the Moedim and the feast. But Miss Granny Sally Sue said that Christmas is the way to go, and it's the only way to go. But the truth regarding Christmas. You've received all the knowledge. You received all the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding around Hanukkah and Christmas, but you still choose, because that's what Grandma Sally Sue said, that I'm going to go celebrate Christmas. See, that's why, we got to really evaluate the position that we allow our relationships to be in. Now, if your parents or little Grandma Sally Sue is telling you the word, then okay, we can glean and we can grab that wisdom, but it can't get to the point to where I am more willing to listen to my father, husband, sister, brother, sister, child, whoever, then I am more willing to listen to the Father. So we got to make sure that we're looking at all these relationships. And then next, something we got to break from is religion and government. And this one, that's something that people really allow to dictate their lives, religion and government. And well, let's read this. It says, but we are citizens of heaven, where the Lord Yeshua the Messiah lives, and we are eagerly waiting for him to return as our Savior. So, my question is, people who fight so hard for government and fight so hard for religion, especially when it comes to government, Why are you fighting so hard for a government that you really not even a part of if you are a born again ambassador? Now, if you're not a born again ambassador, do what you want, let the government tell you what you want. That's on you. But the thing is that this government, they don't care nothing about you. They sucking everything that they can out of you and they telling you to get over it. So we got to make sure that we, especially when it comes to government, people go so hard for politicians. People go so hard for their president or well, I won't say that. People people they justify everything that these politicians do and they can do no wrong. But yeah, people go so hard for these politicians, and they got the, okay. For example, people have been coming out of left and right. They go so hard for the president Donald Trump. Where is his fruit? Why are you advocating so hard for? And you a born again ambassador, but there is no fruit. See, we know a tree by its fruit. So why are you advocating so hard? And well, I'm just voting for the lesser two evils. Or people at one point people were saying Charlie Clark was a savior. You done lost your mind for real. See, we got to make sure we got to look at this stuff and see and especially with the government and religion is so ingrained in our society that people will you're supposed to be Democratic, you're supposed to be what's the other one, Republican, thank you, we supposed to do this and that. But what does my government say? Did you or do you not know that you have another government? So we got to check all of these boxes because people, especially getting involved in this government system, you can quickly turn it. Well, I won't say you can quickly. If you choose, you can turn and allow that government to have more say over your life than the Father and what the Word says. So again, going back to breaking up that will, and honestly, government, even conversations around government, it starts small. And as I was thinking about it, I was like, that man, like a small fox, it's the small foxes that you have to watch out for. So again, and the next one is culture. We got to break away from the culture. The culture, especially as I'm thinking about now, we're in the season of the holidays. Is Jesus is the reason for the season. That's what everybody is saying, but you got to choose to break away from that. Again, we have gotten a thorough teaching about traditions and we got a thorough teaching about what we should be doing. And again, you got to choose to break away from that. So let's read the scripture on note 8. And it says, he replied, Isaiah was right when he prophesied about you hypocrites, as it is written, these people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They worship me in vain. Their teachings are merely human rules. You have let go of the commands of Elohim, and you are holding on to human traditions. And he continued, you have a fine way of setting aside the commands of Elohim in order to observe your own traditions. Right here, we see that they were committed to something else. They knew what they were supposed to do, but their will wasn't broken. They knew that they knew that they let go of the commands of Elohim in order to observe their human traditions. They loved their human traditions more than they loved the Father. They weren't empty, and they weren't trying to be empty. And if you continue, it says, I want to go down to where it says verse 12, and it says, thus you nullify the word of Elohim by your traditions that you have handed down. So what we're doing, right here, again, that will has to be broken. That will, you got to decide that I'm going to choose the Father every single time. And Yeshua called them out. He was telling them right here and even showed them, like, they didn't even realize that their will wasn't even broken. And if they did, they ignored it and decided to keep going. So other things that we got to break from, we have to break from capitalism. Your job is your job will fire you. Your job is not your provider. Your savings account is not your provider. We got to break away from, because the word said, let me stop. We got to break away from this capitalistic idea of living. And because and Elder Alicia, she shared it this weekend about how there was an amount that they were gonna give in the account. It had dropped. It was, did it drop, or it was about to drop below a certain amount, and she was like, oh, okay. But if you look at that, her will bent to the Father. She didn't love that bank account more than the Father, and she trusted the word. She trusted Elohim. So we got to make sure that when it comes to all of these things, this capitalistic society that we live in, that we're continuing to allowing our will to be broken and bent. So it's right here. It says, Yeshua said to him, if you would be perfect, go sell your possessions and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven, and come, follow me. When the young man heard this, he went away sorrowfully, for he had great possessions. And Yeshua said to his disciples, truly I say to you, only with difficulty will a rich person enter the kingdom of heaven. So right here, once again, we see his will wasn't bent. See, he got, and one thing, especially when it comes to, that's, let me stop. When we are more focused on the Father's heart instead of his hand, see, it's more easy for us to break that will, especially when it comes to the area of finances. See, we got to get material things out of our mind. We got to stop being so focused on what the Father can bless me with, because that capitalistic thinking feeds materialism. It feeds the bless me mentality. It feeds the I want the Father to give me this and that. And really, the word tells us that those things are easy material. You want a car, the Father will give us 50 if we're in position and operating and continuing to bend our will. But as we see right here, he wasn't willing to bend his will because he was more focused on the things that he had versus what the Father could do for him. Yeshua was right in his face, and he still chose material things. How many people are doing that? You're choosing your job over the Father. You're choosing your savings account and your investments account over the Father. See, that's a result of a will that's not breaking and a will that's not even trying to break. So that's why we got to go through this whole process of breaking our will so that the Father can come in. And how many times, I know I can attest to it, but how many times, especially when it comes to finances, has the Father told us to do something and he showed himself strong? And that was a result of bending the will. That was the result of operating in the law of obedience. So we got to make sure that when it comes to this area of capitalism and all the isms, that we're breaking away from that. And so the next one is that we got to deal with the habits, the thoughts, the personal conviction, and the logic. Okay. So, yeah, so one thing that I've heard so many people say, well, the Father don't deal with me like that. Well, he ain't dealing with you, because if he was dealing with you, you wouldn't say things like that. If you are empty and open and making your heart sensitive, when the Father deals with you, you are open to allow him to deal with you when whatever area or how he wants to deal with you. Okay, so it says a person may think their own ways are right, but the Lord weighs the heart. For the time will come when we will not endure sound doctrine, but a time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lust shall they harp to themselves teachers. So having itching ears, they shall turn away their ears from truth and shall be turned unto fables. So right here, your own personal conviction, your own personal ideals will stop you from bending your will. Because right now you can go on TikTok, you can go on Instagram, you can go on Google, you can go anywhere you want, and you will find a doctrine that's going to agree with a thought that you already have. See, we are supposed to be exchanging our will and uprooting our thoughts. The word is what washes our minds. See, the word tells us not to be conformed by the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your minds. And if you're not dealing with thoughts, you're not renewing your mind. You're not positioning yourself to you're not positioning yourself to uproot those thoughts. You're not even positioning yourself to get the right precept. If you're so gun-ho and stuck on your personal convictions, and your own personal convictions will keep you locked up and disobedient and not bending your will. And this is the last one, and we'll close it out. You got to oaths and idols. You got to break your will from that. And I was thinking about this. I was like, well, I didn't pledge when I was in college, so I don't think that I was a part of any oaths. And I started thinking, and y'all know I was a Girl Scout. You know, and I know it's funny, but we had this scout sergeant. I don't know who said that, but they would have us stand in a circle and we would hold hands and we would say the Girl Scout law. And I was like, oh my goodness, I had an oath and didn't even know it. And so those are those things that we have to make sure that we denounce and break. So that's all my time. I definitely want to thank you guys for tuning in with us on this evening. Be sure to like and share the video, and we speak shalom.
Welcome to Empowerment of Faith, Kingdom Center for Ambassadors. We are so delighted to have you join us today. Empowerment of Faith has something special just for you. It's our honored guest questionnaire. Simply point your phone's camera to the QR code, tap the screen, and it will lead you to our honored guest questionnaire. Thank you so much for completing our honored guest questionnaire. Don't forget to get your product of the week. As always, Empowerment of Faith has something available special just for you to enrich your walk of faith. Get your product of the week. Need to enlarge your financial IQ? Then join us for Kingdom Principles to Money Management, Sundays at 9:30 a.m. Central Standard Time at 7201 Bridgewater Church Road in Cordova, Tennessee. Can't be here in person? Then as always, join us on Zoom. Hello, men. Don't forget to join us for the next Men's Empowerment Session. See the flyer for details, and don't forget to invite. Hello, ladies. Don't miss the next Women's Empowerment Session. See the flyer for details, and as always, invite. Join us as we celebrate Hanukkah, Keslev 24 to Tevet 1. Here's our schedule of events. Sunday, December 14th is our High Assembly. There'll be no prayer school on Monday, December 15th. Then on Wednesday, December 17th, join us for corporate prayer and midweek assembling. On Fridays, it's campfire and games. And on Saturday, there's the optional ice skating event. And join us on Sunday, December 21st, for our final High Assembly. That's Hanukkah, Keslev 24 to Tevet 1, here at Empowerment of Faith. We'd love to see you join us. As always, thank you so much for joining us today, and we invite you to follow us online on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and more. Again, thank you so much for joining us today, and remember that honored guests are always welcome on any of our platforms, but especially in person. Shalom, y'all.
Number one, Demetrius and Alicia start off as friends, really.
They literally started to just share and impart so much knowledge into us, and we were like, oh wait, what is this about? Our ears perked up. They invited us to watch online because we don't live in Memphis. Sent us over the Zoom links and encouraged us to join in via Zoom. We decided to accept pastoral covering through Dr. Larry and Dr. Renee, and it was the best decision because our children now get to attend Kingdom Scholars online while we get to listen in and be involved. We have a lot of different access to information, whether that be Facebook. We have a text message thread that we use. We also have these women's sessions that have been so helpful for me. And Dr. Renee has been such really encouraging and empowering to stay connected no matter where we are. If you have internet, you should be able to, access the message, and I'm thankful that it's available on so many different platforms.
I also want to bring up just the holy days, us being able to, be welcomed with open arms to coming to Memphis and being able to stay in anyone's house, honestly, who has the space. Dr. Leary is always super great and super passionate and having everyone get together. Even the men's fellowship, when we have every other Saturday, being able to receive so much knowledgeable information from Dr. Leary has been super great for me. So,
if you want to connect with Empowerment of Faith or join one of our Zoom meetings, email us at hello@eofkc.org for more information on how to do so. Shalom, y'all.